Alright, so here we go. We are in the home stretch.
The Frozen Woodworker is a production of Frostbite Furniture, and today is brought to you by Sandpaper, because we like things smooth.
Okay, so we have down here, you can all see that, we have our tabletop stained and ready for assembly. And for the next stages, we have our legs painted and ready for the next step. Before we assemble the table, because we'll assemble it before we do the antiquing, so that way you get the right effect. Otherwise, you might be tempted to antique up here, and we wouldn't want that. And so what we're going to do is take 220 sandpaper and very lightly, very lightly, and then I'm going to flip the legs upside down on top of the tabletop to reattach them with our brackets and our screws. And then I'll set it all right side up again. And then I will go through the steps on the antiquing part, how to make it look old. Remember, very lightly sand. Once you can run your hand over and it's smooth. That's always my main test when sanding, is check for smoothness with your hand. If it feels nice to your touch, then you're good to go. Yeah. Like I said, I like to double check just to make sure for bumps and such. And best test is your own palms. Unless you have really coarse hands, then get a buddy that doesn't. But, you know, you get the idea. Kind of, if it's smooth as a touch, you should be good to go. Like my tabletop, for example, it feels so nice. It's silky smooth. I love it. It's one of my favorite parts about doing this stuff. Is feeling the wood and feeling how smooth and soft it is when the project is done. So, I've checked over all my legs, kind of did as I was doing it, and now we are going to set the legs into place. I'll get all my screws and stuff out. I'll line my brackets up now that I believe I have the right holes lined up, or the table going the right way. So we'll slip these bad boys into place. Little angle brackets this one had. Thankfully, these didn't have to be marked or anything, but remember what I said, if you're taking off hardware and you're concerned about putting in the wrong spot, you always mark it. So, let's get these bad boys screwed in. We got the table assembled, and we've got it flipped back over. I don't know if you can tell, but there's some dust on top. But before we do the clear coat on it, we'll make sure that's all wiped off. And we are going to do the antiquing, the part you came here for. Well, probably most likely. Some of the other stuff can be pretty valuable too when you're doing your own projects. So, here is what we're going to do. We're going to take, I've got 100 grit sandpaper, and what you're going to do is lightly, you're going to sand areas that would normally be like your hand spot, like the curves and the ridges, and like this part here. But you have to be careful you don't over sand, because then you got to go back and add some more white paint if you overdo it. So, very gently you're going to sand to show wear marks, and that's where you're sanding off essentially the white paint and having the brown paint show through. Alright, so just a little bit of wear. So from that angle you can kind of see a little bit of wear, there's a little bit there. And you don't want a lot, and you don't want to go too far down your leg, otherwise it's not natural. And if you're kind of going for more what you see at the stores and stuff, it's more of a defined line. If you're, kind of depends on your style and all that. Kind of you get the idea? Got a little wear there, I think here. You have a little bit here on the edge, because if you're grabbing with your hand, to move it, this would be wear spots here. Kind of, not a lot, just a little bit. And not on all your corners. Like I said up here, that you could accidentally, without a tabletop on, try to do a wear spot there. You do not want one there, because are you really going to grab it here when you're moving a table? No. So years of use would not show a wear spot there. So you want to keep that in mind too. Alright, I will go ahead and finish doing this and kind of film it as I go.
Little kids, I like them when they're little. I don't like when they get bigger and they start in the middle and they jump back to the beginning.
If you're talking to the camera, then I'd say don't do that. And just make sure you stay out of the shot. And we're good. Okay, so we have our wear spots on the table in different areas. Making sure that it's not too uniform, because then it doesn't look like it was a natural. We added a few spots underneath the table on the inside of a couple legs, say, you know, where your feet might rub on a table, those kind of things, or bump it. Next, we will wipe it down, just, you know, the dry rag, just make sure any dust is off of it. And then we are going to do a clear coat on it, and we'll spray that on as well. So here we go for the next step.
Alright, the last thing we have left to do on this table that Jen's been doing, and it's showing you how to do, is to spray some lacquer on it. You gotta cover it with some sort of a clear coat, not only to protect the top, but also to protect the wear marks on the bottom. Now we like to use a spray lacquer. I use the Sherwin-Williams product here. Works really, really well. It sprays very, very nicely. It's fairly easy cleanup for lacquer and extremely durable. But oftentimes it's a little beyond what a lot of people like to do at home. So with that in mind, you can also use just plain like a rattle can of some sort of regular poly you might get at the home center. There's any number of other things you can do. But for this job, we're going to use a spray lacquer. And, well, I suppose I better get right to it here.
And that's all there is to it. One of the things I really like about this spray lacquer is that it's ready for another coat here in, probably about a half hour, 45 minutes. I'm going to do 2 more coats after this one, and then it'll be absolutely ready, and we'll be shipping this out to the customer. So that's it on this project, and you have a good day. Bye.